Hi,
Wait! Who are you?
my name is Mark.
Do I look like I give a damn?
As in most of my videos, I was giving a guitar lesson, and I thought of something, well, interesting at least.
Are you sure about that?
I mean, sure, I had noticed this on my own guitar playing, but since I mostly self-taught, I thought to myself, well, maybe that's the reason.
Oh, you're fancy, huh?
But I started to notice that many of my students do this, I don't know if I should call it a mistake or not, but the fact is, there's a time in your guitar playing when you've got relatively proficient at playing the things you're into, and then you start neglecting the basics. We start to forget about the basic chords, and playing around with just the major scale or the minor pentatonic scale. And don't get me wrong, if you're able to evolve and become better, that's super awesome. But sometimes by neglecting the things when we're starting to learn, can make our job much harder. But I may be getting on a tangent, so let me just show you.
Anybody care what this guy thinks?
No!
Just as a heads up, I have my guitar tuned a half step down. But for what I'm going to teach you, or at least talk about, you don't really need to worry about it.
Please proceed, Governor.
What I meant about neglecting the first stuff we learn is, look at this simple little thing. You have this note, which is a D, well, C sharp actually. And then in a standard tuning, if you go 2 frets up on the G string, on the 7th fret, you have its octave. And if you keep playing on these 2 strings, you have the same octave relationship with every other note with this shape. And while we're just starting out and learning beginner solos or trying to improvise the easy way, playing octave licks is something that sounds really cool, and in general, unless you're playing really fast and crossing multiple strings, it really isn't that hard to do. For instance, if you're in D, and that sounds really cool by itself.
Meh. Meh.
But what sounds even cooler is to mix it with your beginning blues licks. And that sounds really cool for a while.
Wait, what?
We then start to learn scales. And after we learn that shape, our priority is to play it as fast as we can. And then after that, it comes time for the arpeggios. And again, I'm not saying at all don't learn scales and don't learn arpeggios. And I'm definitely not saying just keep playing your bluesy licks, nor am I saying just play octave stuff. But what I am saying is, if you look at an octave, this note is the same as this note, just more highly pitched.
Oh, really?
But there's so much more you can do with octaves. In my opinion, and I try to teach this to my students, you should be able to use every lick or every technique or every scale to its full potential. For instance, if you're learning arpeggios, a really common shape for an arpeggio is... And this shape right here, that little roll, can feel kind of uncomfortable, and unless you practice it a lot, it can feel kind of weird to do. But many guys have thought, okay, you have this shape for the D minor arpeggio, then you have this shape, then you have this shape, and then the first shape up an octave, and you're told to just practice it slow with a metronome to get it really under your fingers. And again, that's important, but those are not the only shapes that you can play in arpeggio, and you can use your simple octave shapes to make those arpeggio shapes much easier. Let's start with the first one. Just the first part. Then you have another D right here, right? Why just not repeating that shape up an octave? Right? This is something that guys like Sinners the Gates and then sometimes Yngwie Malmsteen and Marty Friedman do a lot because of their economy picking, which is just repeat shapes. Or even maybe... And of course it depends on the way you've learned those shapes and of your natural adaptation and techniques, but this is something you should consider. Octaves aren't just useful for those little grooves. Or for those jazzy octave licks. There's so much more you can do. For instance, for me, doing this shape is much harder than... And again, you can use octaves not only with arpeggios, but with regular licks.
My brain hurts!
For instance, if you have this lick, you can do this lick an octave higher. And then repeating a lick in multiple octaves can become a lick of its own. And not only to form these bigger licks and going up the fretboard, but it's also a good fretboard visualization technique. And you can do the same thing with scales. I really do advise for you to learn all the scales, whether they are these box scales or the 3 notes per string shapes. You can just think of these scales by octaves.
No! God, please, no!
For instance, you can do...
Slow down!
As you can see, something that we started out as beginners as being something that's kind of cool sounding, but when we just leave it in a corner and trade it for arpeggios and crazy fast playing, this knowledge of an octave can be super helpful to you. Not just as a tool, but also let's suppose you really gotta play an arpeggio, and you can't just run away from it. Why do you need to play this shape? Or this shape? Or this one? Well, you can play it in octaves. Maybe this is much easier for you. This is why you gotta keep practicing and making sure you use every bit of knowledge to its full extent.
He's right. Do you know that?
Was I able to get my point clear? I'm not completely sure, to be honest. Well, let's just hope I did. Thank you so very much for watching. I hope this video was helpful to you in any way possible. And if it was, please leave me a comment below telling me what you thought of the video, what I can improve on, what kind of videos I should make, and tell me, have you struggled with this kind of thing before? If so, how do you deal with it? Leave your answer below.
How about no?
As always, I'm giving away free one-on-one Skype lessons.
It's for free.
And anyone can enter. But they are limited though, so you gotta be fast.
Fast, fast, fast.
And all you have to do to win one free Skype lesson and discounts on future lessons is to subscribe to my channel, turn on all the notifications, follow me on Instagram, like my Facebook page, and then DM me on one of the social media with screenshots proving that you did everything mentioned before. If you liked this video, consider leaving a like and subscribing to my channel. I have other videos like this one that you may want to check out, like the best speaking technique ever. Well, at least for me. Or maybe perhaps, if you aren't doing this when you play guitar, you're probably playing guitar wrong. And lastly but not leastly, how to improvise like Guthrie Govan. Again, please be sure to subscribe and turn on all the notifications. YouTube's been a little crazy lately. I personally have subscribed to channels many times, and even after turning on the notifications, I don't really receive notifications of that channel's uploads. Many times I have to turn off the notifications and then turn all the notifications on again. So yeah, be sure to do it so you don't miss any of my content.
Yeah.
And yeah, I guess that's it. Again, thank you so very much for watching, consider subscribing, and cheers!